https://co-montezuma-co.smartgovcommunity.com public home. You may also contact the Planning Department at 970-565-2801 with questions. Dated this 12th day of June, 2023, Kim Purcell Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado. Published in the Journal on Wednesday, July 26, 2023.
All right, thank you, Kim. Okay, Don, would you give us an overview, please?
Yes, Spielman and Mrs. Elkin are proposing to split their 10-acre lot, separate 3 acres plus the house on the west, and leave the 7 acres of ag land. They live to the north, so they would just use the 7 acres along with their other ag property to the north. The house has been there for several years, all utilities, it's operational.
Okay,
Pretty straightforward.
pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
It complies with the land use code. What was the planning and zoning's?
They were unanimous to recommend it for approval.
Okay. All right, I will give you the opportunity to speak if you would like to, if you want to add anything. You don't?
If you have any questions, I can answer them, but I don't have anything to add.
Okay. All right. Well, since this is a public hearing, then I will bring it back to the commissioners before I open it up. Any questions?
I don't have any right off.
Okay. Well, then I will open this public hearing up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak for or against this application, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments, and you may address the board at this time. Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment session of this hearing, and I will bring it back to the commissioners. Gentlemen, any other questions, thoughts?
Do not.
Okay.
I don't see any problem with it.
I would so move we accept and approve the proposed 2-lot moderate subdivision in AR 3 through 9 rezoning application submitted by Karl Spielman and Melinda Elkin on property located at 17064 Road 23, Dolores.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept a proposed 2-lot moderate subdivision and AR 3 through 9 rezoning application submitted by Karl Spielman and Melinda Elkin on property located at 17064 Road 23, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 10.03 acres more or less. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I will close this public hearing at this time. You have been approved.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Do we have any of our department heads in here yet, Travis? I don't see any department heads in here yet.
We do have a Mylar that needs signed.
Okay, well, we can jump right onto that. Is that number 1 on the Venger Family Trust?
That is correct. That's the one that was approved a couple of weeks ago.
I still have 4 minutes if I can open this other public hearing, so we will sign that. if you
We've
wanna
got
roll
a
it
few
out.
minutes before the other public hearing. If you haven't signed in, clerk's requesting that you please sign in. She's got her butterfly wings on today. Could be.
What do I do with my pen? Did you take it?
No,
Right here,
I got more. I know the lady passed these. I always get 3 or 4 when I get one.
I thought I just had it.
Did you leave it down there?
Possibly.
Hmm?
What you need?
I was just looking for your pen. Whatever you did.
I ran away.
Put it in your shirt pocket.
I did run away.
You know, there's still a lot of misinformation out there. I see a lot of them cards hanging up there. There's 2 or 3 cards I see in the front row. So they're thinking that the city's moving out into the county. That's what we need to correct. Yeah. Better turn the sign on. Blue. I think it came on. I don't know for sure.
Okay, it is 9:10. Do you have your applicant here, Don?
Yes, Mr. Clark is here.
Okay. Being at 9:10, we do have another public hearing. Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Candelaria.
Here.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Here.
Commissioner Copenhaver.
Here.
Administrator Anderson.
Here.
Attorney McLaren.
Here.
And Kim Purcell, Montezuma County Clerk and Recorder. Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners will hold a public hearing for a review and determination of a general planned unit development and AR 35+ rezoning application submitted by Elevated Smoke LLC, Agent Cole Clark, on property located at 7231 Road 25, Cortez, Colorado, consisting of 35 acres more or less, located north of Road G, west of Road 25, situated in Section 3, Township 36 North, Range 16 West, N.M.P.M. The hearing will be held Tuesday, August 8, 2023, at 9:10 a.m. in the Commissioners' Hearing Room, Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 West Main, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. Information may be obtained from the Planning Office online services at https://co-montezuma-co.smartgovcommunity.com, public home. You may also contact the Planning Department at 970-565-2801 with questions. Dated this 11th day of July, 2023. Kim Purcell, Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado. Published in the Journal on Wednesday, July 19th, 2023.
All right, thank you, Kim. Okay, Don, brief overview.
Sure. Mr. Clark has petitioned to the BOCC to have the public hearing to review his application for the AR 35+ rezoning on his 10 to 34 zoned property with a general planned unit development application. He is proposing to have 4 single-family residences on his property. I don't have a map here, but down in the southeast corner. Travis, you Yeah, where it is on the map. That's the southeast corner of his 35 acres at the corner of G and 25. He would have a driveway permit opposite of the red road to the south for single-family residences. He's proposing to build those as he goes, tentatively with one or two starting this year and the full build-out by the end of 2025. There is a turnaround cul-de-sac for EMS purposes to the east there. That's pretty much the basics on it. I guess just to start off, there's been propaganda, misinformation, stuff sent out about PUDs for the county. Chapter 4 of the Land Use Code addresses general plan unit developments, mobile home plan unit developments, industrial, all types of planned unit developments. That was accepted and implemented into the Land Use Code in '98, the same time that subdivision were, everything else in the Land Use Code. Just a brief overview. His zoning currently is AR 10 to 34. He actually has 35 plus acres, so the rezoning would change that to AR 35 plus. But the zoning regulations, stipulations are the same for either size property. Agriculture, residential, accessory residential, or PUDs. Also, it states in here that planned unit developments are defined and authorized pursuant to 24-67101 of the Colorado Revised Statutes as amended. Their purpose is, as you can see here, highlighted, to encourage more efficient use of land, public surfaces, and facilities, conserve the value of the land, and provide a procedure that can relate the type, design, layout of residential, commercial, industrial development to a particular site, thereby encouraging preservation of the site's natural and agricultural characteristics. The intent of a PUD is a tool to provide flexibility regarding site and design features. This PUD is applicable to small-scale mixed uses such as business and residential combinations. Underlying zonings, again, AR, ag, commercial and industrial. Land use categories, agriculture, residential, and mixed use. As you see in the chart, it's stipulated again what and where a general PUD can and can be applied and applied for. And that's basically it. I can turn it over to Mr. Clark, and he can elaborate on the intended plan, use, and operation of his proposed application.
So looking at it real quick, Don, the two residents that currently exist are in the upper right-hand corner, correct?
That is correct.
So the 35 acres is the bigger outlying area, and the two little chunks are already somebody else's, the way I
Right,
read
it circles around the 2 3-acre lots
Okay,
that
All right.
jut into it west of 25.
okay. Very good. Mr. Clark?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. Just the uses are going to, for the uses of these, they're just going to be rentals, so.
Okay.
And so, commissioners, I think there's a couple ways we can do this. You can certainly open up to public comment at this point, and then after the public comment, I'm happy to discuss some additional provisions of the land use code that I think you need to consider in rendering a decision, or I'm happy to lay those out now. What would you prefer?
I think We can lay it out right now if you'd like. I mean, it doesn't,
It doesn't really matter. I think,
doesn't matter either way.
you know, Mr. Haley did a good job of laying out some of the applicable provisions for plan unit developments. I think there are some other sections of the land use code that I would say bear consideration in making this decision. First, I would point to the purposes of the land use code, specifically section 2101.2, subsection F, and that is one of the purposes of the land use code is to protect the rural character and visual and aesthetic resources of the county and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the county and the state of Colorado. That's just an overarching purpose that was put forth in developing this code. I would also urge you guys to pay special attention to some of the objectives laid forth and set forth in the zoning chapter of the code. And so specifically, the objectives in the zoning chapter, section 3101.2, subsection D, one of the objectives of zoning is predictability concerning property rights. Zoning designations will assist neighbors, potential buyers, and the public in recognizing what kind of development to anticipate and be able to adjust expectations and plans accordingly. Now, the zoning chapters lay out for each zoning designation primary uses and accessory uses. So ag uses certainly are set forth in the land use code. A lot of ag-related uses, primary, and then specifically sets forth primary single-family residence, housing for ranch and farm operation, family members and employees, and home occupation. Residential uses defined, that's 3106.5, defines one primary single-family residence, one mobile or modular home, one state licensed group home for up to 8 persons, and then an accessory use is one guest or caretaker unit, 2,000 square foot minimum. Commercial uses are defined in the land use code as uses engaged in the sale, rental, service, and distribution of goods and the provision of services other than those classified under the other use types. Now, certainly, when you get into the planned unit development chapter, a general planned unit development does contemplate mixed uses. And I'll point you to the exact language, and I think Don had it up. Travis, do you want to flip down to that page as well? Go up a little bit. So when you look at the general plan unit development, its intent is to plan unit development is a tool to provide flexibility regarding site and design features. The PUD is applicable to small-scale mixed uses such as business/residential combinations. And so that's a super important provision to consider throughout the proceedings today. I mean, obviously, you know, there is some flexibility in that, and what a small-scale mixed use is really for you guys to consider and for you guys to consider what was intended when that language was put in. I think that the overarching thing you have to understand here is that a general plan unit development, it certainly is allowable within a property that's zoned AR 35+ or AR 10 to 34 as this property currently is. Now there's a request today to rezone it to AR 35+, but a general plan unit development is allowed in that zoning designation. I think that the difficult part and the part for you guys to decide today is really what a small-scale mixed use is and business residential combination. And I think you have to consider that provision along with the other provisions of the land use code, the ones that I laid out for the zoning chapter and the overall purposes of the land use code, if that makes sense, in trying to figure out what exactly that means today. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I have for now, and then certainly after the public comment period, if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer, or I may have some input at that point as well.
Okay. Question, Commissioner?
I don't have any right now.
Okay. All right, and you're good with what you had to offer?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, well then, being time, we are going to open up this hearing for public comment. Those wishing to speak for or against this application, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you may address the board. We're going to start with 3 minutes. We'll go for about 45 minutes, and if we're still going, we'll reduce that to 2 minutes. So I'll give you the first 45 minutes at 3 minutes per person, and then we'll reduce it to 2.
Commissioner
So-
Chairman, we may want to take the Zoom caller from Region 9 first, just in case he's got other pressing matters.
Okay. We can do that. That'll be quick and easy. So, Travis, you got the speaker down there, so you'll have to do the communication. Got him?
Go ahead, Shaq, you're on.
Hello, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Shaq Powers. I reside at 702 Canyon Drive in Cortez. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I wanted to take a moment just to speak in favor of the applicant. We recognize that there is a shortage of housing in the area, especially rental housing for those getting started. And I know that as Attorney McLaren was just saying, this is an allowable use. I'm sure you'll hear several times throughout the morning that the land use code specifies 3 acres for any residence, but the PUD process that is a part of the land use code does allow for more dense areas as long as it leaves open areas with the property, which this does. So I would encourage the commission that if in your findings that this lines up with an allowable use as defined in the land use code, that you allow it. Now, it could be that there are things that you don't like about the land use code and you don't agree with. And if that is the case, then there is a process for changing the land use code. You could go back and strike the parts that you don't like, but I would encourage the commission that as this lines up with the land use code, and if it lines up with the land use code, that you would go ahead and approve it to help meet the greater needs of the area. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. That's the only Zoom caller that I see right now, Travis, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it back into the room. So if you all would like to just line up over here on the, at the wall, then you can just kind of single file.
Iron Squad?
Come on forward. You're first, sir.
All right. Well, my name is Jim Dickinson, and I live at 24870 Road G, which is literally right across the street from Mr. Clark's deal here. My thing that I can't get my head around with you guys and what everybody said and what your codes and all that kind of stuff, how is putting houses from me to you apart, density, cramming people in, how does that preserve agriculture and open space and all the things that rural people want? I don't understand if they were putting 1 every acre and a half or 3 acres like a lot of the other things did, but why do they got to be stuffed together like that? That to me is counter to what they say the land use is all about. So that's the question I have for you guys. I don't want to see that stuff right straight across the road from me, just mainly because I didn't move to the country to live in the city. And that's what you're doing, is you're bringing the city to the country by putting stuff together like that. And all my neighbors feel the same way. You know, we're there because, you know, I can't afford to have a 5,000 acre place or a 500 acre place. I got 3 acres of grass that I want to die on, but I don't want to die in the city. And that's just basically what it's going to be if this thing goes through. And that's what I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
All right.
this young man wanted to be heard, and he couldn't be here today, so he wrote a letter to me.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Morning. I'm Jimmy Williams. My land is at 24510 Road G.1, and I am in favor of this because I do not want to see anybody, whether it be in the city or the county, denied to make a living. This man, he was for this in the beginning. The way I understand it, you guys heard it, the Planning Commission, and everything it was an okay thing. And I understand it is, I can't think of the right word, but to take public comment from people that's against it and for it, but not to make a vote. I think the vote should be considered under the land use code of the law. And I don't know if you're familiar, but the opposing party, they sent out these things, and there's no proof of more crime, there's no proof of more traffic and noise, unless that has to be proven. And these are accusations, I feel like, that has no merit. The only thing that I am concerned about is the future of probability of building more. There is access to the city sewer to this property. You'd have a long ways to go and be a lot of money, but so if you develop more, that's a thought that you may take in consideration. But for now, I am with him on this. I think it is fair. The houses are needed. The Love truck stop is going through. People will be closer to their work from there. If he decides to sell some of these, I'm sure that they would be interested in buying them. I thank you all very kindly. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next.
My name's Charles Jeter. I grew up in this county. I currently reside in Chula Vista, California. However, I have a membership at Four Corners Rifle and Pistol. And I believe this affects everybody in the county. I spoke last month, and I want to say the same purpose that I'm objecting to this, vehemently objecting to this, is the same purpose I objected last time. This incentivizes speculation in the agricultural zoning, and that sets precedent. We don't want to do that in this county. Regardless of the wiggle room or the gray area or whatever else, rentals are commercial. Mr. Clark, I appreciate the work you've done on this and everything, and I please hope you don't take this personally. If my passion comes out today, one of my friends, unfortunately, became one of the 22 on Saturday, so I'm a little pissed off about a lot of things. Shaq, I'll see you on the 10th. Please understand this is pretty much a war between you and me, and it's going to be played out for the next few months or years. I'm staying here. Okay? Rentals are commercial. Region 9 has its own little fantasy and ideas about how things go constitutionally. I believe the county has precedence. If you're looking at how to deal with this, California had a great way. They used the Williamson Act. Your council could probably research that and give you some information about how you could take those lessons learned over 50 years and apply them to this county, regardless of what Denver says they want to do, regardless of what Shaq at Region 9 says he wants to do. Okay? Where does the poop go? That's a great question you brought up. Okay? That costs money. It costs money for all of us. We have to do a mill tax. We have to look at what the infrastructure is and where exactly we're dealing with that for urbanization. That's a big deal. I also look at this because I drove, the last 10 years or so, I've been taking that route back and forth as I go through and I cut away from Cortez. And I see a lot of deer and things like that. Sir, you asked about the question of where the proof was. I can write you a study with 3 specific peer-reviewed studies right now. I could write you a 1-page paper that'll tell
I
you
think
the
if
problem
you
we
could
have
just
with that.
address the board.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's kind of what we're doing, is addressing the board.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So the issue is, I want the commissioners to understand that we don't want to have the speculation. That's what's raising the prices. We do want to have people providing agricultural services. There are plenty of things you can do to make a living without doing rentals. Rentals is the easy way out because we have a housing crisis. We also have a housing crisis because we have certain people making certain pay, and there's a lot of them, and we have less people making other money, okay? That's something that I've looked at in the past, and I'll be addressing that tonight with the city council. I would say that we have to look closely at housing, but we have to look at the underlying reasons. That's basically all I have to say today.
Thank you. Next.
I'm John Palmer. I live at 7116 Road 25. I'm against this for the simple reason I moved into country to get away from city life. I feel that you put these houses in there, it's gonna bring a lot more people down in that area. We've already got enough problems in that area. And from what I understand and what I've looked up, you can't take agriculture and turn it into commercial. I'm still looking, I'm still checking on that stuff. But I am against having these people down there. Another thing, I used to farm that land. The water level isn't very far from the top down to where it is. I've taken that section where he wants to put his houses, and I took it from salty ground of nothing to grass. I put that field back into production, and I hate to see it go back into a commercial deal, and I'm against it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Warren Gaspar. I live at 29057 Road H. I also am against this proposal. I've driven down Road G many times going out to the highway, going out to the airport, going in that direction, which is the easy way for us to go. And I can tell you the traffic on that road has increased quite a bit. I don't know what kind of a bearing that'll have on all of this. But we also, like the others before me, I moved here to be in the country. I lived in Grand Junction for 13 years. I moved to Denver, and I ran from Denver to come here. I don't have any intention of living next door to rental properties. I don't live there now, and I don't want to see any show up next to me. So I don't want to see anything like this happen. I hope you're taking into your opinions of lost my train of thought, sorry. Infrastructure. Several years back, we talked about trying to run fiber out to everybody, and that fell flat on its face. A lot of us that are living out there don't have the infrastructure, and it would be really nice if that's being also included in what this proposal has been. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Dave Dove. I'm here for my wife Judy and I. We live at 7823 Road 25. And I want to speak in, I do not want to see this. We do not want to see this here for a number of reasons. A lot of them mentioned by Attorney McLaren. It's not compatible with the area. And I noted in listening to our planner that he neglected to mention that this has already been denied by Planning and Zoning Commission. And they spent a lot of time to do deep research on this. You folks come in and you have to take in a lot of information in a very short period of time and make a decision. They've already done the research. It would be very, very bad to override these volunteers that spend their personal time without pay. It's hard to get these people. To override them would be a slap in the face. I would also like to say that the statement made by the planner as far as some of the stuff that I've seen, I've got a mailer the other day being propaganda. It's just absurd. A lot of that stuff is true. I did some checking. Conserve the value of the land. Preserve the natural character. A couple of the commissioners have told a couple of people that I've spoken with about this that they believe the PUDs are being used as a workaround to the land use code, and I totally agree with them on that. So I hope that they stay with what they said in private. Predictability, we've been there for decades. We had no idea that anything like this would ever be considered in our neighborhood. And we're kind of shocked that it's somehow it was neglected to mention it's been declined already. That's just not right. I'd like to echo somebody else also saying, let's keep the city in the city. The city has hundreds of acres that could be developed. If there really is this housing crisis, that causes development because there's financial incentive. If there was this crisis, the houses would be in the city where people can walk to the amenities. What is being considered here tonight, there's not going to be walking to the amenities if it's ever built. It is a workaround. There's 2 lots on there. The code clearly states, as Mr. McLaren said, 1 residence and 1 auxiliary. Creating PUDs just to work around that is not right. The 3-acre minimum, that's noted in their code 8 times. It's important, the 3-acre minimum. To work around it by sticking 6 lots on this less than 35-acre parcel, we noticed that when I looked this up originally, it was under 35 acres, and then suddenly it changed to 35 acres. I find that very curious. But given to 35 acres allows these more clustered developments.
Okay.
And I think we need to, please, I'm asking you to deny this today. Thank
Time
you.
is up. Thank you. Next.
Good morning. I'm Margie Dove. I reside at 7821 Road 25, and I am Dave Dove's sister-in-law. And I've been up here, I moved up here from Phoenix about almost 4 years ago. My home actually is on the edge of the property, which is near 25. And it's at that 3-way stop that it's horrendous. The traffic is horrendous. It's a disaster waiting to happen. And I'm really concerned about that. Furthermore, since I've lived at 7821 on, the Dove's property, I've experienced so many homeless people. I've experienced intoxicated people who come to my door, and it's very scary. I live alone. My husband passed away about 14 years ago. So with that said, this is just going to exacerbate the issue and make it worse. I also actually have had, which was squelched, I had a man come to, actually had scoped out my place, and we found out about it. Come to find out, he was a convicted murderer. So with this said, we cannot have this, out in our community. These are farms, these are ranches, this is the country. This is not the place for this to be built. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
County Commissioners, my name is Eric Terrell. I live at 11305 Road 20 with my wife Barbara. And we've been there, unlike probably many of you, we weren't born here. We moved here about 3 years ago. We weren't born in rural Montezuma County, but we plan to die there. Something that's kind of hilarious is we moved from Highlands Ranch, and maybe some of the commissioners have been there, maybe you have family that live there, but it's 30,000 homes and growing, all in a very, very small area. It's the opposite of beautiful rural Montezuma County. We love that lifestyle, and we find that this application puts that lifestyle at risk. In order to defend this beautiful way of life that my wife and I have achieved, what do we have to defend this risk? We have the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have the Land Use Code, and we have the leadership and judgment of this commission. And in my opinion, this application runs completely counter to both the spirit and the letter of the Montezuma County Land Use Code. And so I ask the county commissioners to defend the Land Use Code, to defend our beautiful rural way of life, to endorse the prior decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next.
Emiko South, 7127 Road 25.4. Thank you, Commissioners, for listening to our concerns. First of all, I'd like to point out, according to the legal summary on the tax records on Elevated Smoke's tax page, for this property, it states that it's 34.97 acres. According to a conversation with Mr. Haley when asked why they wanted to rezone it from AR 10 through 34 to 35 plus, he said it was to bring it into where it belongs. It's not 35 acres. It's close, but it's not quite there. At what point will you say that doesn't qualify for AR 35 plus? 34.85, 34.75, maybe 34, give or take. Section 3306, AR 35 plus applies to parcels 35 acres or more, not more or less, or within reason, but 35 acres or more. The only reason I can think to push to rezone to AR 35 is I know you're allowed PUDs on both, but AR 35 plus does say it allows clustered lots. So according to section 5101.1, it states, this chapter contains the standards by which proposed subdivisions, including plan unit developments in the unincorporated area in Montezuma County, will be reviewed. I understand that subdivisions, but if subdivisions are required, according to section 51017A, it states the minimum lot size for residential development must be 3 acres. So with this may be a rhetorical question, but can someone explain how 3-acre minimum for residential housing listed many places throughout the land use code, like it was stated, but with a broad stroke of PUDs, circumvent that through different interpretations of the land use code? We must consider the intent of the PUDs when it was placed. It was my understanding from your planning staff in section 31065 residential uses definition that we are only allowed 2 residences per lot, no matter the acreage of the lot, but 2 residences. This application would allow 6 rental dwellings on this lot. Does that really abide by the land use code?
Next. Sure.
She kind of answered about the first one. Oh, my name is Greg Bitsy at 24107 Road E.5. I was just wondering why it wasn't called a quadruplex, because instead of a PUD, and then she kind of answered that with the 2-unit thing for the lot or whatever. But saying that it's a PUD and a rental and stuff like that, is this intended to be like a Section 8 voucher kind of place where people use government funds to rent these properties? And like, because I'm just kind of wondering, like, the speculation of like people are just going to start buying up land in rural counties and stuff like that and start developing these PUDs for assisted affordable living houses and stuff like that. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Judith Franklin. I live on Road M between roads 20 and 21. So I'm in the county. This is not the first time I've come to talk about land divisions. I guess I hadn't planned to speak today, so this is going to be a little bit disorganized. I just wanted to listen. But one of my questions is that on this property that we're discussing, there were already two divisions. There are 2 homes that were shown on the map originally. And I believe that part of the land use code says that you can only have 1 plus an additional for a family member or something of that nature. Now we're asking for 4 or 5 or 6 more on this same piece. I'd also like to know what part of the land use code takes precedent over others. Is there a hierarchy? Because one of the main provisions of the land use code is to protect the rural character of this county. And that doesn't speak to me of allowing a more dense division of the property, even if PUD is part of the land use code. Is there a hierarchy? So I guess I'm opposed to this because I think it's being proposed in the heat of monetary avarice, as opposed to the careful planning that went into the development of the code to begin with.
Okay.
My name is Del Foote, and I live at 10965 Road 26. And I think my big concern about this is, where do we stop? Where do we draw the line? You know, are we going to allow someone else to come in next week and do the same thing somewhere else? You know, the county has rules, and we need to abide by those rules. I'm torn because I think property owners should have rights. I'm also of the opinion that property owners need to be respectful of their neighbors. And we need to consider our actions and how they're going to impact other people. And I guess that's your job. Because right now, you're going to have to make that decision. Maybe not right now, but sometime soon. Do we allow more buildings to be built on this rural property? Anytime you increase the population of a rural area, you increase a lot of problems, or you cause a lot of problems. The people who move into rural areas move there because they want to have some sort of freedom, some privacy. And anytime you bring in more people into these rural areas, you create more traffic, there's more noise. Anytime you increase the population, there's going to be more crime. These things all need to be considered. And what I'm thinking is not so much what he wants to do right now as much as it is the future, 10 years from now. How many more exceptions are we going to make to the rules, and who's going to be impacted? Well, that's my concern, I guess. I don't want to set a precedent on something that is a major change for our rural community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Larry Tradliner, and I live at 17989 County Road G. I came to this discussion about what's going on kind of late because I was involved in a number of other things. But I see it as the proverbial camel getting his nose under the tent, followed by the body. Like the rest of the people that spoke here today, I'm concerned about crime. I'm concerned about the loss of the small town feel that we currently have. The other thing is, after watching McPhee, which I like to kayak on, I realized that more people means more water use. And the water goes to the residents rather than to the agricultural and farming community. There's a loss there. I have, like most of the people that are here, are concerned about the crime and about what's going to happen. I have not heard any cost-benefit analysis from the county. What is it going to benefit the county and Cortez by allowing this rezoning? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is John Swanson. I live on Road H.6, 27951, Road H.6. I actually have a couple questions that I don't think have been answered here. The look of the layout that he has with the cul-de-sac at the end would kind of suggest that 4 properties is not going to be the limit to that space, that he could probably build houses around that and down the other side of that road and expand that property. So that being said, I'm wondering if we took that into account. Or is it going to be limited to just the 4 properties, or is he going to be able to put as many houses around that he wants? The other thing is, somebody mentioned that if he sells them in the future, will these properties be able to be divided and sold individually in the future? So, I mean, these are questions, and are you guys going to put some kind of restriction on how many, if it is approved, are you going to say that's the only 4 houses that you can have? Or are you going to say, can he build more? You're going to say he can only have rentals, or he can divide it and sell them? How far is this going to go with this one? Because this could set the precedence for many more like this in the future. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name's Wayne Thibodeau. I live at 7306 Road 25, just short of being across the street from this project. I am a land developer. I also purchased a 3-acre section down in that corner, and 2 years ago I tried to subdivide it. I wanted to subdivide it into 1.5 acres so I could put a house on each one, and then I could sell it separate if I chose to. I was shot down by the county in every direction I turned. And to see this happening now and being this allowed, not only are we going to have an influx of people, the first thing that's going to happen is a signal light's going to go up on that corner to control the traffic. And then because of the flow of people, we're going to need sidewalks. And then that's just the excuse the city needs to go ahead and flex and annex that whole area, which we don't want. Then the city sewer system's going to go in. And it's just, we want our country life. That's why we live there. Thank you. And I'm against it.
Next.
My name is Stephanie Fry, 25089 Road G.
I'm sorry, what was it? Stephanie? Okay.
First of all, I have a letter from somebody who couldn't be here today because of work. It says, Dear Commissioners, I write to you to express my deep concerns about the high-density PUD project of affordable rental houses at the northwest corner of County Road G and County Road 25. We live on County Road G, and traffic has drastically increased over the last few years. These roads were never intended to carry the amount of traffic they currently do, and putting an extra 16 cars making 2 trips out and back per day is just dangerous. We love the rural character of our area, and we want to be protected as the land use code demands. I hear one of the commissioners say that there would be no negative impact on property values, and that is just absurd. Allowing a high-density project of affordable rental homes in that location would destroy property values, and protecting from negative impacts to property value is a requirement of the code, section 1201.2A. Another comment that I have heard from the county planner is that Another comment that I have heard from the county planner that is completely misleading is the statement that since there is going to be a new Love's truck stop nearby, we might as well start zoning this area commercial or industrial. I don't know how long Mr. Haley has lived there, but we already have had a truck stop there, which is the N.M.P.M, for several decades. This is not new, and despite that there is no through trucks sign just east of the truck stop, law enforcement has not enforced the law here. In talking with a couple dozen landowners in the area, I have not heard one person say they wanted to see a project like this be built there. Cortez has hundreds of undeveloped acres and hundreds of empty lots, which is plenty of room to grow high-density projects for decades. High density is not needed in Montezuma County. That is the letter. Now, my own words. It makes me happy to see so many people here against this. I believe you commissioners were elected to protect the agricultural way of life, and rentals, as has been said earlier, rentals are commercial, not agriculture. So please, let's protect the agricultural and rural way of life that we have. The more we skirt around the laws and allow stuff like this to be brought in, the more we become like California. And do you know how many people are leaving California right now? Let's keep what we have.
We got 4 more minutes. Okay, next.
Darren Noyce. I live on County Road 31. Like you all here, I've lived here my whole life. I'm sure you guys are, I'm pretty sure you all lived here your whole life. But I'm thinking about these PUDs. Maybe we need to revisit these things, because I'm worried like the gentleman in the red hat. He's worried about the future. Now, I grew up here my whole life. It's been country the whole time. And now we're getting these PUDs. Pretty soon, I'm worried about, you're going to look at our map of Montezuma County, and it's going to look like a shotgun of PUDs out there throughout the whole county. And I just don't think that that's quite the place I grew up in, and I don't want to see it turn to that. So thank you for my input.
My name is Roger Borgen. I live at 25855 Road H. And I agree with 100% everybody that has spoken against this project. I just want to add a couple of things. I think the applicant has already showed his hand on the future. He initially started this with, if I remember correctly, 6 fourplexes or some darn thing. And then he gets shot down on that. The Planning and Zoning Commission turned him down. A lot of feedback, negative feedback from the community, residents of the area. And now he's saying he wants to do 4 individual home sites. But keep in mind, his ultimate goal was, I believe it was 6 fourplexes. So what is in plan for the future? One other thing I want to point out is, yes, this was already denied. The other thing is, I was at the Planning and Zoning meeting. I remember overhearing a conversation that you do not have to listen to what the P&Z commissioner said. We can take it to the county anyways. I'm not going to say who said that. He's in this room. But, you know, that's wrong. And I disagree with this project. Thank you.
Okay, it's now 10 o'clock, so we're going to go to 2 minutes. So those of you that have not spoken, you still have 2 minutes to address the board. And you can keep lining up on the wall there.
My name is Wendell Fry, 25089 Road G. Here we are again. Seems like we just barely had this a little bit ago. Sounds like there are a lot of concerned citizens here in the county. I hope you commissioners are actually paying attention to that. By the way, these are your bosses. I hope you take this as something that we are concerned about. This is something that I personally am taking time off of work. I don't have all that much time to take off of work. I've done it, this is my second time to do this. And then going my personal time to go to the P&Z. What does the P&Z even matter? If they deny it twice and we're still here. I'm afraid you guys, if this has even come up again or passed, you're losing the trust of your bosses. You're losing the trust of the citizens who elected you. That's why we're here, because I participated in an election because I expect to elect somebody to go and act for me, to hold my best interest in heart. I don't want, when I had people work for me, I didn't want to know everything they were doing. But apparently we have to come and watch videos and be a part of this. Like, why go through an election? That's what elections are for, to hire or elect people to act in your best interest. And apparently, a lot of us don't feel that that's happening or are worried that it's not. As one of your bosses, I hope that you will stand up for what is actually in place to protect the rural area. That's why we moved there. It's important to us. Some of us can't live with thousands of acres. I would love to. But guess what? I have 3 little acres that I call paradise. I would like to thank whoever put these out and whoever is doing the research, because I don't have the time to do it. I would love to know who I can actually donate money to so that they can keep this going, because it is such a relief to me to know that people are out there and people have the courage and they care about our community. Thank you very much. I am totally against this.
Curtis Nelson wrote in, and I did not write this, but I'm representing Eleanor McFarlane. She couldn't be here today. And it states, "Dear Commissioners, I am a county resident who moved here to get away from the big city traffic, crime crowds, and all the negative aspects of living and working in a major metropolitan area. Like many others before us and since, we came to be with family and enjoy the lifestyle and scenery that go with living in the rural agricultural county of southwest Colorado. The most distressing thing I see happening within the county is the disappearing agricultural land. Building high-density housing on agricultural land is inconsistent with the articles of our county documents, the Montezuma County Land Use Plan, the Montezuma County Land Use Code, and the Montezuma County Community Economics Development Strategy. All support our agriculture industry, its economic importance and impact, and the priority of agriculture protection. Was impressed by the fact that the agriculture is ranked 5th in the county for percentage of jobs. In 2019, total employment for Montezuma County. While many of the categories listed show job losses, agriculture showed a 15% increase. It seems the agriculture industry of our county shows desirable growth and trends any community would be proud to claim and protect. If you keep destroying our rural and agricultural landscapes and set the precedent for building and more high-density housing, what will it do to the numbers in the coming years? Adding more and more high-density housing will likely tax our need for water. Who can forget what reservoirs looked like last October? What will happen when our water supply will no longer support the increased demand generated by additional housing of this kind? Where does the responsibility begin and end? I would urge you to strongly follow the letter and intent of official county documents and dare to protect the heritage of this beautiful desert Southwest for future generations by denying the PUD before you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. I'm Mindy Nelson. I'm here representing representing Jackie and Chris Callister. Dear Montezuma County neighbors and elected commissioners, I am Jackie. My husband Chris and I own and live at 7131 Road 25, so we are clearly at the heart of this issue. First of all, we're very sorry that we couldn't make it. We both had to work, and my husband is actually out of town. I have been in Southwest Colorado since 1998. Chris was born and raised in Durango. Our family is here. Our friends are here. Our life is here. We both are small business owners. We are also both active voters. In the last 3 years, we have survived a pandemic, the health crisis, a huge move across the country to bring our young daughter home to grow up closer to her family, and most recently, the loss of both my parents. We purchased our home because standing in the backyard for the first time looking at the sleeping ute was the first time that I felt I could breathe. I could see raising my little girl here, 4-H, soccer, dances, the whole thing. We came to Cortez because of the amazing community, a place where the land and its people is sacred. The idea of this little slice of piece of us could be surrounded by rental units that have no use for this pastoral land is a nightmare. Honestly, I am concerned about this bringing in crime and drugs again, especially after this side of town has worked hard to regain the sense of safety. I'm concerned about the vetting application process for people to move into the rentals, for it seems that none of the other can give us a deposit. We currently have 2 renters next to us, one of which is domestic violence incident, wanting to put in 4 houses on a corner, but we all know that this is just the beginning. And we also know that this won't stop with our little sense of heaven. Our land, our water, and our environment all will be compromised. Yes, things always change, but right now you can decide to change things for the good of our community of voters or who could for certain people's pocketbooks. We are
Okay,
not
so-
against the development of the land, 1 house per 3-acre parcel. We are against the current proposed plans. Please help keep Montezuma County the special place that we all love. Thank you again for your time in your heart to make this right decision. Jackie and Chris Callister.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah, good morning. My name's Russ Shamel. I live at 23455
Road G2. And I moved here with my wife, who I lost to the COVID, going on 3 years ago, because this is the most beautiful area in the country and the agricultural it's an agricultural community. And excuse me, I'm kind of out of practice. I have heard a lot of reasons why this is not a good idea, and especially knowing that your Planning and Zoning Commission agreed that it's not a good idea, I think is something that is probably a very, very critical issue here. So anyway, take it for what it's worth. We live, in a little rural subdivision, 4 to 5 acres, and love it. And I think that that's wonderful. But this doesn't appear to be a good fit. And I know that the area does have some high water table problems. I have absolutely observed that, and it just doesn't seem to fit. Just because something is permitted doesn't mean that it has to be approved. Otherwise, there'd be no reason for this at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Tony Martin, 5740 Highway 160, 491. I'm against the project. I don't think you should turn this into a city. I came from Vegas 10 years ago. I know a lot of you guys, probably from this town, you haven't lived in a city and stuff like that, but live in bigger areas. There's a lot of violence. People don't care who you live next to and stuff, what you do. I don't think, and rentals make it even worse. If you own the house, it belongs to you. If it's a rental, it's just a disposable property sometimes. That's all I got to say. That's all I can think of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leandria. I live at 24303 County Road G.1. I'm here representing my family, the Sosi residents, the Yazis who live in the same area, the Sanchez's who live in the same area. We live in the area. I've lived there my whole life. We already have a lot of crime. We already have a lot of traffic with the KP Pond, with the G-Will liquor store being down there. It's already overpopulated, and we are against this. We all have worked hard to purchase what we have, and we just ask that we continue to stop this and let our voices be heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ron Tucker. I live at 26641 County Road N. I'm here to support these people because I'm having the same problem going on with the PUD in the middle of farmland right across the road from me. Planning and zoning allowed them to put in, said okay for a 48-foot road that uses my house for a light backstop. What nobody's addressed here is the light pollution and the noise pollution. As these cars come out of these rental areas, they're going to light up all the homes across the street. I mean, they live out there in darkness and in quiet, but now headlights are going to be lighting their houses up every night and every pre-dawn for the rest of their lives. This isn't something that's just going to happen there overnight for a couple nights. This is the rest of their lives, their heirs' lives. I mean, if you grew up here, you buy a house here, you work here, you help Montezuma County become what it has become, you want to sell your home, Well, why do we keep building these PUDs for these little small homes? Zillow has over 250 homes for sale in Montezuma County right now, and that's just Zillow alone. I mean, why do we need all these new little rental houses? Why are we screwing up the Montezuma County agriculture, rural living? I mean, I live out there in the darkness and the quiet. That's not going to happen any longer if they let this PUD go in for this Triple S Farms straight across the road from me. My house is going to light up like a dance
So real
floor
quick,
for the
we
rest of
haven't,
my life.
let me just interject. We haven't heard anything on this PUD. This is a quasi-judicial body, so please don't talk about that today, if you don't mind. Because that's going to come before these commissions.
The same thing's happening to me is happening to them. So why shouldn't I come up here and help these people out? Because the same thing, if they set this precedence, the same thing's going to happen to me. So let's get it out there right now so everybody knows. All this is going to do is just interrupt the people's lives that have lived here, that have contributed to this county, has made this county what it is. But planning and zoning obviously doesn't care about that. I mean, they voted this one down, but they didn't vote the Triple S one down. What I'm saying is you don't address the light pollution, the noise pollution. So like I say, I live in the darkness and the quiet, but once this happens across the street from me, my house is going to light up like a dance floor at a disco club for the rest of my life, for the rest of my heirs' life. Now, if I want to sell my home, well, my property values are going down because there's homes everywhere for sale now because of these PUDs.
Time is up.
My time's up. Fine.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Good morning. Susan Chemnitz, 511 South Cedar Street in Cortez. And I just want you to please consider the intent of the code. And when I see that a place is zoned agricultural, it should be for agricultural uses, not for commercial, not for apartments. It doesn't belong here. It does not fit. Please consider that. We're going to lose all our agricultural land. It's going to be covered up with all these apartments, and you're going to regret it. Thank you.
I've got a letter to read. My name is Greg South. I reside at 7127 County Road 25.4. I have a letter to read. Hello, my name is Sandy Gates. I live with my husband, David Hamilton, at 7954 Road 26.5. We have lived all over the country in some of the most desirable places that once were small, community-minded towns excuse me, and cities. Then they boomed into uncontrolled growth with no respect for the land or people residing in these places. We chose Cortez for the very fact that it has not been discovered or ruined by the money-hungry land developers. David and I, relatively new to the area, but already know that we want Cortez to be our home. We are part of a huge group of home and property owners who are aware within the city limits there are plenty of lots and land for hopeful controlled growth within the city limits. Please pay attention to these people sitting before you today. Thank you, David Hamilton and Sandy Gates. I would like to say on a personal note, I do believe that the land use code states 3-acre minimums throughout it, and also on 5101.7B says that there shall be 10-acre minimums up to Dolores River Valley. So if we continue with these PUDs, which I believe are being misinterpreted for what their original intention was, are we going to allow PUDs up the river also? So thank you. I hope you turn this down. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rick Meredith. My wife Dana and I live at 7961 County Road 26.1 Loop. We've been there for 3 years, but I'm a MCHS graduate, so I've been here a long time. This proposal is essentially for a high-density commercial development in what is basically a rural residential area. I don't think it's compatible with the area. It certainly doesn't preserve the rural nature of the county, as your attorney has mentioned, nor does it provide for predictability for the neighborhood. Excuse me. Getting a little dramatic here.
You're okay. You're good.
But finally, this has been presented 3 times to either the Planning and Zoning Commission or the Board of County Commissioners already and been turned down 3 times. At some point, no has to mean no. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Okay. Looking, anybody else?
Hi, my name is Liana Wright. I live at 8435 Road 25, just up the road from this planned development. And I agree with everyone else. I'm against it because it is going to impact our rural area. I don't believe a planned unit development should be brought into agricultural and residential areas. Primarily because it's commercial, for one, and for very much of all the comments that everyone has made today. So I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Come on forward.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Stephen Fancher. I live at 11880 Highway 491. I'm out of the region of these that are talking today, but what I'm concerned is someday we'll be fighting the same thing down the road. I came over here to take care of my mother because my dad passed away in 2000, and I've been here since 2015. She took care of the business by herself. She got to a point where she couldn't, so we closed the business and we retired. But anyway, since that time, we had to decide whether the property was going to be commercial or agricultural or historic. We chose to keep it historic. And we lived just before M Road by the cell towers. And like I said, one day we'll probably face the same thing. And during the time that Mother was by herself, she had one incident where a gentleman tried to pull her out of the house. And I tried to get over here in time, but the good Lord helped her out. So we feel that later in life or later down the way, there'll be more incidents. Highway 491, as most people know here in Cortez, has got a lot heavier traffic. A lot more drugs are going through Cortez than that. And we feel that if we go commercial and start selling our lands as commercial properties, we'll see a lot more. And of course, like everybody else has stated, you're going to have utilities out there, which will cost a lot more. We're still on septic tank, of course. And another thing.
Time is up.
Okay,
sir.
thank you very much.
You. Okay, I thought it, oh yeah.
Hello, my name is Melanie Russell. I live at 1311 North Dolores Road, which is kind of far from where we're talking about, but I am the manager and owner of R&R Properties. We own multiple rental units across town, and we own a rental unit down G across from the Love's Truck Stop. I will say that it is a community problem. There are rentals needed from young people that need houses and 2 and 3 bedroom houses. They're not available. However, I'm against this. I think it needs to be done. It just needs to be done in a way that reflects our community. There needs to be space. We need to have homes that people want to stay in. They may be rental homes, but people can't always afford to buy a house, especially when you're young, in your 30s, you have kids, you have jobs. It's not always an option. So rental homes are great for those kind of people, but they need to be on bigger lots, 3, 4 acre lots. They can have a garden, they can have a home. They can live here and be part of our community. It's not a cheap rental house. It's not something you don't care about. It's somewhere you want to be, somewhere you want to live, somewhere that's respectful to your neighbors and can be created in a way that reflects our rural community. Not side by side, not on top of each other, but with space enough to enjoy the agricultural land still and make a good use of something to somebody, to everybody, you know? You gotta have respect for your neighbors. You gotta have respect for your town. So I'm against this, but I do want everybody to know that the housing is needed for young people. I have tons of people that apply for our houses, and they need those 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses, you know? It's hard to get 5 people in 1 bathroom. So I just want you guys to know they do need them. People do need these houses. Just need it to be done in a respectable manner that reflects our cool and awesome environment, you know? We have a cool thing here, so we just don't want to ruin it.
Thank you. So next.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Quinones. I live at 6009 County Road 24.5. I am nervous, sorry. But I am against this because I know what Section 8 is. It is going to bring your house values down because no one's going to want to move into a place like that, near it. It brings crime, it brings noise, it brings a lot of trash to our place. That's what it does. A lot of traffic and a lot of noise. We moved out this way to be out in the country, to have the freedom and to hear the nature, not to hear traffic, not to hear, you know, ambulances and streetcars, and, you know, that's what you get in the city, and that's what you get when Section 8 comes in. You get all this noise, and the animals, where are they going to go? You know, they need a place also, and we're getting rid of all this with Section 8. And once you start a little property, it's going to get bigger. It's not going to stop there. You're going to continue. There isn't enough law enforcement out there to help with this. You know, we're having difficulties with that as it is. We need to protect our land. You don't need more. If you need a place to live, move it to the city. There's plenty of property there, you know. And young folks, if they're really educated, they're not going to stay here. They're going to move to a bigger city where they can actually make a life. Here is nice. It's a retirement area. It's a nice, beautiful place. It's country, and it needs to stay that way. You don't want apartments in a country. It doesn't stop there. It continues. We come from California. We moved out here 17 years ago. It's beautiful. It's nice. We moved from that to here, and now you're bringing it here. It doesn't stop there. It is going to continue. So, yes, I am against it. Do not let this happen. It can't. Thank you.
Okay. I see nobody else. So I'm going to go ahead and close. I'm going to give everybody 1 round. So the public hearing, I need to give everybody 1 round. If I let everybody jump up here 2 or 3 times, then it'll be, I think we've heard probably everything that we need to hear at one time. So I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing, or this public comment session of this public hearing, sorry.
And Commissioner, at this point, if I may, I just want to lay out the exact legal criteria you have to consider for a planned unit development. I think that'll be helpful in framing your discussion as you guys talk through this.
Okay.
So, Section 4201.5, that's findings of fact and decision criteria for a planned unit development. there's 5 things that you need to consider. First, whether the proposed PUD is in conformity with this code, being the Land Use Code, and the PUD Act of 1972. I can say that I reviewed the PUD Act, and much of the PUD Act is reflected in this code. They're consistent. And so it's almost identical language for much of it. The second thing you have to consider is whether the PUD shall minimize significant adverse impacts on other property in the area. The third thing is whether the PUD provides access routes in compliance with the Montezuma County road specifications and of adequate design to accommodate traffic volume generated by the proposed use. The fourth thing you have to consider is whether public utilities and services are available or can be made available to support the uses consistent with the proposed zoning. And the fifth thing that you need to consider is if cluster planning principles are used, the PUD plan adequately addresses the preservation of productive agricultural land and the designation and maintenance of common open space. Now, I think the thing you're going to need to hone in on those 5 things is whether the proposed PUD is in conformity with the code. And I want you to look really carefully at section 4105. That's the general plan unit development language, and the intent, 4105.1. It says the intent of the general plan unit development is a tool to provide flexibility regarding site and design features. The PUD is applicable to small-scale mixed uses such as business and residential combinations. Right there, you have to hone in and figure out what the intent of that language was. What does that mean? What is a small-scale mixed use, such as business and residential combinations? And I think in figuring out what that means, I think you can look at the totality of the code. You can look at some of those provisions that I referenced earlier pertaining to maintaining the rural character of the county. You can also look at the zoning chapters, and you can look at the fact that a general plan unit development is allowed on property that's zoned AR 10 to 34 or AR 10 or AR 35 plus. And so, this is what you have to hone in on, but you definitely want to consider the code in its totality as well when you're trying to figure out what the intent was and whether this fits and whether this qualifies as a mixed use, such as a business or business residential combination, a small scale mixed use.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Well, then I will bring it back to the commissioners. Gentlemen, we have something in front of us today that, here again, we have the code in front of us, and we can address some of these other questions if you'd like to at this point in time, or whatever your pleasure is. So,
I can answer some questions about the utility things if you guys would like me to go over that.
Sure, you bet. I'll give you that opportunity.
For the septic, that seemed to be a huge issue. Craig Wickstrom, Colorado State licensed engineer. We did a geo study. We dug, I think it was 7 test pits. All water table was fine for septic. As I stated, he is a stamped licensed Colorado engineer. So the septic, he approved everything there. The geo study was fine. We didn't do anything on the far west side of the property, which I could see where everyone could get their the inclination that it wouldn't be suitable for building. It is kind of wetland down there, but that's not what I'm talking about or where I'm talking about building. Empire Electric has a substation about a half a mile down the road, so it's absolutely adequate for electrical. There's a 4-inch water main right there that was just put in by Montezuma Water Company. I have a 1-inch tap, which is when I originally bought the tap was to for my larger development, which I got a lot of backlash from the community. Therefore, I wanted to downsize this and make it more, acceptable by them. Apparently, maybe I'm wrong again. Another thing I wanted to address, this is going to be Section 8 housing. I have multiple rental properties. There's not going to be any Section 8 housing. There's not going to be any vouchers or anything like that coming from me. A lot of people keep talking about their property values. Just off Zillow alone, another gentleman thought Zillow was a valid source. Your property values last year on a median average have increased by 22%. I wanted to address maybe the road problems. Rob Englehart, he runs the road and bridge for Montezuma County, or he's part of it. And I tried to get a road study done, and he told me that it wouldn't be necessary because that road is, in his words, is completely adequate for bumper-to-bumper traffic end to end. Those are in his words, not mine. I understand. I live on that road. I don't scoff at your comments either, so I didn't say anything when you guys were talking. 24750, that's my address. I literally live right across the street from here. I've lived here for 28 years. I've born and raised here. Longer than a lot of people these people have. So I respect what all these people are saying. I'm trying to build something nice. I'm trying to, I sent Don some pictures I'd like to pull up. If he could do so, whenever he's ready, I'll let you know. This is for workforce housing. Oh, okay. This is a quarter mile up the road from my house, which is also a quarter mile up from the road G and 25. This is the rural, character that we're trying to protect right now. Multiple trailers packed on with junk everywhere. And this was just yesterday. I had to drive a quarter mile down the road. This is my home too, and I want to make it better for every single one of us. So I don't understand how I'm protecting. If that's the rural character you want to protect, then absolutely decline this, because I'm not going to be putting that up. That's not happening. Not in my town. I don't agree with any of that. I don't know if those people are out of compliance or not, but if they are in compliance, that's a real shame. I know on, it was Tuesday of, I think it was in May, we had it was a workforce housing workshop that I listened in on, and I believe it was Mr. Candelaria that said that there's a 1 mile of influence that they wanted to keep this housing in, and that it actually is needed. And I'm just confused because I'm in the 1 mile of influence. I'm trying to appease everyone in the community at the same time. It's hard for me to, go knock on every door while trying to maintain my business and talk to these people and understand their concerns, because I absolutely do understand all of your concerns. I'm part of this community, and it's good to hear this so I can get the feedback that I need to make sure what I'm doing is correct. But I am in that 1 mile of influence, which is what's needed. We do need workforce housing. There are going to be people who need to work at that Love's that don't have cars, that can walk down there, that can go and work in these places. And I have quite a few rental properties in this town, and not one person has came from out of town in any of my rental properties. They're living here. They just don't have anywhere to live. They're tripling up in these houses. So, I just don't see all these people coming in from out of state or what's happening. Makes zero sense to me. I also have a question for you guys. The Blue Mesa subdivision, which Jay Cruzan and I think it was Grant Smith built right below south side of the high school. There's 26 lots there at 0.26 acres and then less than 1 acre. I'm building 4 houses, and they have at 26 lots at 1/4 of an acre apiece. How is what he's done, and I have a list of other people, what they're doing, any different from what I'm doing? It doesn't make sense, and they didn't get the backlash. I didn't hear anything like that. I'm building 4 homes just to rent out for people in my community and trying to help out. So I don't see why I'm getting the backlash other developers and other builders are getting, and they're already getting approved on.
So we haven't approved or denied you yet. So just so that I can make that clear to you, we did approve that. I'm not sure.
Well, I was just talking my
commissioners,
original plan.
Let me answer your question for you, because I owe you that. There are PUDs throughout this county, and they have been since the inception of the land use code. And you're correct. I want to say that there were 35 acres or 35 lots proposed on that 17 acres. It was approved, it's being developed, and there are houses all over it right now. It is in the county, and that's just one of the PUDs that have been developed and put in the county. There are several others. Go up 145. There's 120 some trailer houses right off of County Road M. We just approved 2 more cabins there. There's now going to be a dozen cabins, along with the or commercial business in there. PUDs exist in this county, and if you guys start looking around, they are there, and they have been there for a long period of time. So look around. It's not anything specific. So we haven't approved or denied anything yet. So just so I can make that clarification. Okay? The backlash of people out there, they have the opportunity to comment. It's up to their comment. We make the decision, and we're going to make the decision based on what the people gave us to govern by, which is the land use code. That's where we're at. Anything else?
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, commissioners.
And Don, just for the record, the Planning and Zoning Commission did not recommend this for approval.
Correct. Let me bring that up. So they recommended to deny that it be approved. It's a PUD versus a 3-acre minimum subdivision. We did have the discussion with a couple of the P&Z commissioners that a PUD might be trying to circumvent the land use code, which is not correct because it is part of the land use code. So we have the subdivision versus PUD conversation. But in their conditions of the motion, that if the applicant wanted to restructure the application and design, it could possibly move forward. It's understood the county has needs, but there is also land use responsibilities, striking a fair balance.
Thank you.
And it was recommended for denial.
Okay.
Well, just some history I was on the committee that developed this land use code back in the 90s, whenever we did this. When we did this PUD development, and it has been in the land use code this whole time, that was put in there with the intent that if you had agricultural property and you needed to sell off part of it in order to keep your property, basically, is what was proposed, that you could develop, put some smaller lots down on one end of it. But when you did that, those people bought those smaller lots with the intent that the rest of that was going to remain open. There was a deed restriction supposed to go on the rest of that property. Now, somewhere along the line, we've lost that. I don't know when that happened, but that's, when these were done before, when I was a commissioner, there was a deed restriction put on some of that property, that those people that bought those lots had their knowledge that that land next to it was going to remain open. It was not going to be developed. We don't have that anymore in our land use code. And I don't know where that went away, but sometime that has happened. And I think, personally, it needs to come back. I think the big difference in a lot of this stuff is the whole fact about commercial. To me, if we're going to have this zoning, and I said this when this was up here before, we need to have the right zoning for these things. Whether it's in a PUD or whatever, it needs to be zoned for what it is. If this is going to be a commercial property, it needs to be zoned commercial. Not something else, okay? I mean, to me, when you're going to develop a commercial property, you should get the zoning done. Get it done. Get it zoned as a commercial property. And then you could do your commercial development. You know if it's possible for you to do these things before you go through this whole process, like what he's done. I mean, to me, that makes a lot more sense than going through what we're going through with this right now.
So just for clarification, Commissioner, on 4105.3, under the land use categories, it states agricultural, residential, commercial, and industrial mixed use. So AR stands for agricultural residential, which is exactly what's being proposed. And on last week, we had a BOE hearing in here, and our assessor also told us that Airbnbs, VRBOs are not taxed commercially because they are not considered commercial properties. They are taxed as residential properties, and that's how they're taxed. So therefore, that's how the state and the statutes see them. In my opinion, from what we were told by our assessor. So those are all considered residential. So I look at this and considering the 5 bullet points or criteria that the attorney laid out. You know, one, are the utilities available? You've clearly stated that the utilities are available. Is it compliant? If you read everything that's highlighted here, it looks like it's compliant. Just as you said, there are PUDs that we have approved, all 3 of us have approved throughout this county. So to encourage a more efficient use of land, public services, and facilities, I think the criteria has been met. Then lastly, you know, is it a significant adverse impact? Is there an impact? Absolutely. I think I've said this in the past. You can't develop anything without some kind of an impact. There is an impact. Is it adverse? So I put a lot into the meaning of that word adverse. Is there something environmentally there? Just as there was down where the old N.M.P.M was, that was an adverse impact. Until we got that cleaned up, no development could take place. Once it was cleaned up, it's now being built upon. There is no significant adverse impact in this one. As you said, you have a engineer that has the values of the septic system there. Again, we have right off of M Road, 120 some RVs with 12 cabins. There are ways to design everything around an adversity. And then significant. What is significant? Where's the data of the significance that this portrays? We've heard a lot of things here, but I don't have any data. I don't have anything in front of us that was presented. You know, gentlemen, you know, and I 100% agree with you. I think, Mr. Fry, is that you are our bosses. You guys voted on this. You guys voted on this land use code, and this is what you gave us to govern by. And it's to govern by it equally and fairly to everybody. You don't have to like it, or you can love it. But there are ways to change it, and if you don't like it, then there is a process to get it changed. Like I said, there are planned unit developments all over this county. Start looking around, and you will all see them out there. You're correct. The one on J Road was probably one of the most recent. 35 lots on a 17 acres, right off of County Road J. Again, what was the significant adverse impact in that PUD? To address the subdivision, there was a gentleman that came in here and said that the subdivision that he proposed was 1.5 acres. That's correct. Subdivisions were turned down because, again, for a subdivision, it states you have to have 3 acres or more. We did not come off of that. We have stayed with that 3 acre minimum for a subdivision. However, what's in front of us today is a PUD, not a subdivision. So I think there's some misconception there. I think that people need to understand what is being presented, and that's what we have to look at. So one, does it comply? Is there a significant adverse impact? Are there utilities available? And it's a cluster plan. So, you know, again, if you guys don't like this land use code, you gave it to us to uphold, just like the Constitution. Everybody wants to say, I support it, but I bet you half of these people in here don't support Amendment 64. However, we have to uphold that. It is part of the Constitution. So, I'm going to let my commissioners to my right and left speak, and then we can go however you gentlemen want to go with it.
In the beginning, when this was first proposed to have a land use code in Montezuma County, there was a committee formed, a broad spectrum of all walks of life that they could possibly find, and it was a really large committee to start with. Gerald was part of that committee. They came up with certain criteria, certain ideas, certain plans to be implemented. And when 2 commissioners left office and myself and Kelly Wilson took office, those commissioners voted in the land use plan. And it's been kind of, like Gerald said, it's gotten away from its intentions, and we were charged with writing the rules and regulations to this code. And over a 2-year process, a lot of meetings over just, I mean, we'd spend 2 hours on a word, shall or will, maybe, stuff like that, that was fought and scraped out. After that, it was taken out on a road show. We took this clear around the county to anybody that would hear us. A lot of participation some nights not. One was talks of ropes and guns, one of them at the outset. But what bothers me is 4105.1, intent. A planned unit development is a tool to provide flexibility regarding site and design feature. This PUD is applicable to small-scale mixed uses such as business/residential. That was put in there for home-based businesses. Nothing else. Because we had beauty shops, garage shops tagged on to home residential. And I'm with Gerald. This has gotten out of hand. I mean, we've been approving stuff that was never intended to be approved. It was supposed to have been being able to cluster develop these and ag remaining. In your instance, we should have 9 acres reserved for at least these 4 pieces of property. And so that's where I'm at.
We can put a restriction on it. There's
Yeah,
nothing
it's-
against a restriction to that, or as you said, a deed, Commissioner, that.
And with our planning and zoning,
or,
we have enough trouble
restriction.
finding planning commissioners anyway. And to go against them on this, I don't think that I can do that.
So then, put it in the forward of a motion. You want to put something in the forward of a motion? Or
Just to clarify, if I might,
Yes.
real quick, there is a cluster incentive PUD in the land use code. And with that, you get 3 houses for 35 acres, and 75% of the property is deeded restricted for any kind of development. That's a cluster incentive PUD, so that has not been withdrawn from the land use code. That still is in there and still does apply. There's also, with that, was this general PUD, which we are reviewing now.
And what size is this property?
This is 35 acres.
35 acres or 34.9?
34.9 is what we
Well,
were
it says-
presented, so what is it?
Our planning code says 35 plus, not 35 minus.
I think
AR 10 to 34 has the same stipulations. That's why I showed you both.
10 through,
GIS, the GIS map shows it as 35. Whether it's rezoned to 35 plus, or if it's 10 to 34, it still is allowed the same permitting for PUDs.
so they're both the same.
So just so
For a
I'm,
general excuse me, Ian, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for a general PUD, it does not matter if it's 10 to 34 or if it's 35 or 35 plus.
And I just want to make it real clear. I mean, Commissioner Lindsay, you talked about a concern that this wouldn't fit with a small scale use, like a business residential combination. And so that is what a general PUD is. The cluster PUD is a different thing that talks about clustering homes on a certain side. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your concern here is that this PUD application for a general PUD, the use is not a small scale business residential combination. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, anything else to add? Either one of you gentlemen?
And then just to clarify on the zoning, so what is the size of the parcel? Do we know? I mean, I'm confused. It's zoned 10 to 34?
It's zone 10 to 34. The GIS map lists it as 35. We could check the legal description.
So I would encourage you, if you're gonna, I mean, there's really two things before you today. There's a rezoning component, and there's this general PUD component. I think you have to approve or deny both of those things individually and separately. I'd be a little uncomfortable rezoning this property without having a legal description in front of us and something more solid than our GIS map. I mean, it's zone 10 to 34 right now, and I mean, I haven't seen anything that definitively says it's 35 or 34.5. But we do have the historic zoning, and so that would be a concern without something real clear to go up to a 35 plus. It would be difficult.
To get that in front.
Yeah.
Sound good?
All right, I would so move, we delay this decision for 2 weeks pending certain specifications of the property, and we'll go from there.
Does 2 weeks work done? What do you already have on that agenda?
I have to go check our calendar real quick.
And so are we
22nd.
moving to deny just the zoning piece or the PUD piece as well?
Being
'Cause
there
they're-
integral, we'll just put it off until we,
I think he's asking for a decision to be postponed or
On both
continued.
things. Yes. Okay.
On both of them
Okay.
until we get the other information.
I just
in
wanted to
front of us.
clarify.
For 2 weeks. 2 weeks would be the 22nd, so I don't know if that's, fits within your calendar or not.
Can I ask a question? How does the rezoning?
The public comment section is over, sorry, sir.
We don't have anything scheduled for the 22nd.
Okay, so it can be moved to the 22nd? Okay. Are you okay with that, Commissioner? Or,
Not really.
okay,
I mean, to me, yeah, this, if you scroll that on down to what it says about commercial or industrial uses can be used in a PUD, it has to meet a different set of standards. Go back, can you go back? See, when you get conditional uses, those are commercial or industrial, those are conditional uses for that PUD. As far as I'm concerned, it's got to meet the applicable standards of in the land use code. When you read the conditional uses, it should meet those. And I don't think it does, but I
So
mean, we can put it off for the 2 weeks.
so residential or commercial is your? but
Well,
that's okay,
commercial
that's all
or
that matters.
industrial. See, this is
Do you want to put it
commercial
off for 2
and
weeks?
industrial uses, that's conditional use. Commercial or industrial.
Travis, can
exceeding
you
the
scroll
threshold
up,
standards.
scroll to the top?
The one thing I would say on the rezoning portion, I mean, this is a conditional use, whether it's zone 10 to 34 or 35 plus. And so whether that information's provided, I mean, you guys have probably all the information in front of you that you're going to get. I'm not trying to say one way or the other. I'm just saying that zoning designation doesn't necessarily change the PUD decision.
No, we can put it off for 2 weeks.
So, are you okay with that, or?
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Okay, so is that a second, or?
Yes.
Okay. So that it's been moved and seconded to continue this public hearing till 8/22/23 at what time, Don?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, this public hearing will be continued until 8/22/23 at 9 a.m. Thank you. All right.
close the public hearing.
I can't close it, it's continued. I just continued it until 8:22. Oh, yeah.
Rewatch it on the video. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and continue on with our regular meeting. If I can,
I just want to make sure, Commissioner, are we ready? Want to take a couple minute recess?
okay, take a 5-minute recess. 5 minutes? Okay. All right, we're back from our recess. The next thing up on our agenda is the public comment session. The Board of County Commissioners welcomes you to this meeting. Person speaking during public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. When addressing the board, please state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments, and comments to individual supervisors or staff are not permitted, and participants may not yield their time to others. With that, the public comment session is open.
Give me just a second.
1 second.
Okay, hear me?
That way I have the clock proper.
Oh, gotcha.
Before you start.
Okay.
Okay, good morning. My name is Mike Rubin. My address is 36485 Road G.9 in Memphis. I'm here today to discuss the Montezuma County Fair Board's targeting and disparate treatment of my 12-year-old daughter at this year's Montezuma County Fair. My daughter has been participating in the Montezuma County Fair program for 4 years. The July 28th 4-H poultry show, the Montezuma County Fair Board disqualified her for wearing a hat during her show, humiliating her in front of her entire 4-H group, taking away her market championship she'd already won, showmanship which she was participating in at that time, and barring her from presenting at the auction. The Fair Board said that although the Fair Rule Book does not have a rule for the poultry contestants that hats cannot be worn, the local fair rules only state poultry contestants must be in appropriate attire. They were disqualifying my daughter based on the state fair rule book that defines dress code as all caps hats may not be worn. I'm not sure who reported this or why the Fair Board did the research to enforce this rule on my daughter. The issue with this is there was 2 other male contestants, I have clear evidence of this, that both wore hats during the same show as my daughter. When the issue was brought up to the Fair Board, they refused to disqualify the boys as well. They also refused to give the girl the same non-punishment or permission to wear a hat. The boys were not disqualified from winning awards and presenting in the auction. I met with the board on 2 separate occasions, and when I pointed out their clear disparate treatment of my daughter compared to the males that participated, they said that's their decision to make and refused to overturn it. There's no state or local fair policy that states the Fair Board must disqualify someone. That means the Fair Board made the arbitrary and capricious decision to disqualify the female contestant instead of the more appropriate penalty, such as a warning. Regardless, the board only disqualified the female and did not disqualify the 2 males for the exact same violation in the exact same show. To be clear, we as parents do not believe anyone should have been disqualified for this minor infraction. The judge at this event had no issues with my daughter wearing a hat or the other contestants. However, only applying this to 1 female participant is the definition of disparate treatment by the board. The Fair Board held a grievance procedure where they were allowed to attend and argue their case, but the girl and the family were not allowed to attend. That process had 0 transparency or documentation to prove it was fair. Instead of having our daughter suffer further humiliation, we removed her animals from the day she was disqualified. The Fair Board in turn retaliated against us and banned my daughter for 2 years from competing at the fair. We have had nothing but a positive experience from the 4-H fair the last few years. The Fair Board's heavy-handed and unequal approach to discipline was a surprise to us. I believe the board targeted, humiliated, and bullied my daughter. I ask that the BCC investigate this incident. The Fair Board makes a good faith effort to correct their decision by August 28th of this year. If the board is unable to correct their actions timely and amicably, we'll have no choice but to seek other legal means available for remedy. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'll close the public comment session this meeting, and we are going to go on with our agenda. I'm going to jump down past our department heads. We do have a representative from the Forest Service in here. Mr. Rice, I see that we lost our BLM and our Canyon of the Ancients National Monument.
I think they gave Travis some information.
Okay. All right. Thank you for being here.
You bet. Thanks for hosting. Just a few things to catch up on. We did award a contract for the breakwater, the new breakwater out at McPhee at the reservoir. I may have spoken about this last month, but our plan is to start construction on that in October. We'll have a kickoff meeting in early October with the contractor to make sure that we have everything in place, and then we'll be able to work a little more effectively when the reservoir is not as busy and when it drops out a little bit. So good news there on that project. We will be disposing of the old tires as part of that contract, and the offer is still out there to the raceway, to the race course contractor, that if they want some of those tires for collision control, they have those available. So, I believe we'll be starting as early as today on, or the county will be starting as early as today as on the Dolores Norwood patching job, which we appreciate you helping out. So a long time coming. That road is in rough shape after last winter's heavy snows. So that'll remedy some of the problems we've had along that stretch of the road, especially between Butler Corner and House Creek. So that'll take care of that problem. We do have future plans to improve that section of the road using some other additional funding. So this will be a short-term remedy to that problem that we have out there. We've had a number of managed fire operations across the forest over the past week or so. There's two fires over on the Pagosa Ranger District, and there's one on the Columbine District, which were lightning strikes that we have managed for basically risk reduction in terms of allowing some areas to burn while controlling other areas of that fire to protect private property. The Bear Ridge and Quartz Ridge, or the Bear and Quartz Ridge fire over in Pagosa are right now actively being managed, and then the Dry Lake fire over in Columbine is also being managed, but I think it's on the downturn in terms of fire activity there. If we have the opportunity here on the Dolores Ranger District, we'd like to do the same. We've had several lightning strikes that we wanted to look at managing in a similar way, but they were surrounded by timber sales, and that timber sale location just didn't make it a good candidate for managing it. So we would like to use it to our advantage. Conditions are good this year based on the winter that we had. We still have good green up, and we feel as though we could have some successful fire operations if the opportunity presents itself in the right box, basically. And then finally, we will be doing some expansion at the transfer campground, installing a new bathroom at the horse corral sites, which our equestrian partners have wanted for a long time. So that will be happening soon. And then we will also be awarding a bid on the Boggy Draw parking lot and bathroom expansion up at the Boggy Draw parking lot above town. So doing a few projects to address some of the growing recreational use in the area, which I think is a pretty strong part of our local economy.
How big is that parking lot going to be? How much expansion?
The footprint will be reduced, but the amount of lots will be expanded. So the footprint on the north side of the parking lot will come to the south a little bit in order to deal with some of the runoff that we have, especially in the winter when we get a lot of ice in that area. We'll be expanding some trailer parking to the south, as well as putting a bathroom on the south side of the lot as well. We're probably only removing about 3 or 4 trees in that area, and keeping a lot of that native surfaced parking area to the south of the main Boggy Draw Road as is, because it has some nice shade and people like to use that. So, so again, the footprint will be reduced, but the number of spaces will actually increase with more capacity for trailers to pull in that area.
Very good.
Okay. One last thing, we were able to get some secure rural school funds to continue our muscle inspection out at McPhee, another year of funding for that. And also we were able to secure some additional funding to do some parking lot maintenance, which includes winter plowing of some of these lots that we've been discussing over the past year or so.
So on your muscle inspection, it's just a year-to-year funding, it's not?
I have about 2 years right now banked, and so this will give us another 3rd year of inspection. So, and the Secure Rural Schools program has funded that multiple times. Always concerned that could go away. I've tried to lobby, up the food chain to our regional office that we need to secure, some more funding to maintain that program. I'm very confident because of the importance of that inspection program that we won't lose funding for that.
Okay.
But it does require a little more diligence to make sure that we, maintain that important line of funding. It's important to agriculture as well as drinking water, and the proximity to Powell makes us concerned. We have exceeded, this year we've already exceeded the number of mussel interceptions more than what we had last year. So it's a continuing problem. And Powell really does not have a very successful or useful inspection program, and so our inspectors have to be much more diligent in their inspections.
This question may be tough, but is Powell experiencing any problems with the mussels in their outlets or pumping?
No, I think their bigger problem is just lack of water.
Okay.
Down there. But I don't know. I've never heard that. And I don't know with the depth of their discharge as well as their plumbing, how mussels would inspect it under pressure, temperature,
right,
chemistry, all that kind of, water chemistry, all that kind of stuff. But interesting to find out.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, but it's, you question that.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I know, I'm sure we can get that answer. I think it's an interesting question, and I'd like to know as well.
Very good.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for the funding. Hopefully we
Yeah.
can get that Dolores Norwood at least patched up and
Yeah.
have a Band-Aid on it. So
Yep,
I appreciate that.
Rob's help with the road crew. That's important. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Tom. Travis, do you have anything to add for the BLM or anything they left you? Or? Okay. All right, very good. All right, well then we'll jump on up to the department reports. We have vehicle maintenance, first of all. Mr. Hickman.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Still morning, right? Morning.
Barely. Still morning.
Not a lot. I just wanted to show here where we're gonna be basically with the leases through the year, where we'll be at on our budget, around to that 200,000 mark. I just wanted to show that we should have plenty of money there to go ahead and purchase the other 3 vehicles that we've been talking about, one for maintenance. We have a Tahoe for the detention at the sheriff's department, and 1 road pickup out of this year's budget. And then, so this is the rest of the leases through the year, and then all the transport costs. And then this other list basically is what the next couple of years here should entail. There's been some confusion on vehicles and who's are gonna get replaced, so this is kind of this year and next year's outlook somewhat of the vehicles that would be getting replaced. That's really it. The sheriff's department, we have been finally getting those new pickups. You should be seeing them out on the road. We've been getting them assigned and out, so that's a good thing. And we will be having a mass auction here within the next month of a bunch of stuff that's beginning turned back in.
So I guess I have a question on your Chevy Tahoe for the SO. Where did this come from? And
It's the vehicle that was ordered, but I do somewhat agree that it needs to be replaced, because you can see it has 194,000 miles on it. It's been ordered for a year, probably a year.
this was approved a year ago?
It wasn't, this is the one from the sheriff's department that never had the approval that was ordered.
So it has to have approval.
So when it gets, okay. I don't even know the cost on the vehicle, honestly. It was done,
So how would we approve something not even knowing the cost?
this is, I don't know how to answer that question. It was not approved. I can get the cost and we can get the approval done. It was done around me. I wasn't part of it, so. I do agree that it needs to be replaced, so I can get the numbers together and get the approval in place. It is ordered. I'm sure we can still cancel the order. That would be not between.
I'm
me
just,
and-
I'm not,
Commissioners, my understanding that that was coming from the gaming or casino funds or something.
It was supposed to be out of the, it was ordered because it was part of the casino.
even though it
grant,
was
but-
ordered, doesn't mean that it has to be approved.
I didn't order it.
Especially if it's out of the casino contract, because that's all funds that go to the county. Within that, it has to be approved, I guess.
Expenditures have to be approved.
How do we
I mean,
not
I'm
ex-
not.
How do we order
Nothing here has even
vehicles?
been approved, and I did not order it, so. It's not. It was ordered by the sheriff. It was not ordered by me.
Which he hasn't asked us to order anything. And we're
This-
just approving something that we don't even know what the cost is?
This is not the approval. I'm not asking for an approval on any of this outlook today. We haven't approved one for the road department. I would have to find the pickup to get the approval.
I understand
I
that.
haven't got,
I understand that, but you said this has already been ordered.
it has been ordered, but I
Okay.
am sure that it can be reallocated if you
Okay.
guys decide not to approve it.
Okay.
But it was ordered for the sheriff's department. I did not order it. But that being said, none of these have been approved. I will have to
Right.
find a pickup and bring them to approve.
I understand that, because when you bring them in, we usually have a cost so that we know what we're
Correct.
looking at, what, to approve it. This is
Yes.
just,
All this
Okay.
is the outlook of this year, what we would want to replace. You guys have the say, to say yes or no, honestly. And we can tell, we can tell them to take this Tahoe and reallocate it. It's not, that shouldn't be an issue. People are looking for Tahoes everywhere, so. But I didn't order it, wasn't me.
well, and that was the whole intent. You were ordering the vehicles,
Correct,
and now you were just circumvented.
correct.
Okay. I have no other questions, gentlemen.
I don't have anything.
Commissioner? Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Shane. Dustin, building,
Morning.
How you doing?
So we finished painting the Annex 3, and we mowed the weeds down around the courthouse again. We got this asphalt repaired out back behind this building, which is a big project that well, not a big project, but I was wanting to make sure it got done by winter, because it's a lot easier to plow around it. And then we started building a new door for the Pleasant View shop out there for their sand shed. We're gonna get that put up before winter. So, other than that, it's been normal business.
okay.
Have anything else?
Oh, I heard the clerk's office is pretty proud of their new downstairs elections room and stuff.
So I was gonna say, I wanna thank these guys for what they've been doing for us here lately. They have been moving furniture and lifting and toting and painting, and we are very grateful for what they have done for our office. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Okay,
day.
that's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, now we're gonna jump through public lands, go through unfinished business. Ian, I think you said last week you were gonna have us a resolution, which you currently have up on the screen right now, so.
I do, and this is a regulation, or a resolution designating members of the Montezuma County's Committee for the Disposition of Forfeited Property. We talked about this last week when the sheriff's office seizes property. Before that property can be disposed of, it has to go through approval by the committee. Who will be on this committee will be the sheriff or a representative of the sheriff, commissioner, or a representative of the Board of County Commissioners, and the district attorney or his designated representative. Once this board comes together and meets, then they can, through the agreement to those three, add other people if they see fit. But it's a very open resolution, and that'll just get this set up and get us into compliance with the statute.
Okay, gentlemen, you have any questions on it?
Number 16.
16.
Go ahead, Drew.
I move to approve Resolution 16-2023, designating members of the Montezuma County Committee for the disposition or forfeited property in Montezuma County.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept resolution number 16, 2023, a resolution designating members of Montezuma County's committee for the disposition of forfeited property. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We'll jump right down. Mr. McLaren.
Last week, we had a hearing on the 8th of August in the afternoon on the Ironwood case. The result of that hearing was that the court authorized the imposition of further sanctions for the contempt. Ironwood continues to have material at that mill site, and so the court imposed sanctions of $5,000 a week in fines. Those would begin on August 1st, and they'll stretch through September 15th. We set a hearing for September 15th to look at where we're at with that and whether there's still material in the pile, and then if there's still material in the pile on the 15th, then we have the opportunity to ask for additional sanctions. During that hearing, Ironwood was very optimistic that they're going to have the material eliminated. That's what they represented to the court. They did represent that a bonus has been offered to the current contractor to remove that material by the end of August, and so we'll see what happens. But at this point, Ironwood is paying $5,000 a week in fines. Half of that is going to the Colorado Department of Health and Environment, and half of that will be going to the county. Other than that, we continue to wait on an order on my motion for summary judgment in our Ellis Lewis land use case, and that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Last week, we designated a new transportation and senior services director. It's going to be a combined position, and Jennifer Morris was selected and accepted the position. A lot of budget meetings this week. Last week. I'll have some more this week. Addressed a lot of BOE emails and phone calls. Obviously, I don't have any control or authority over them, but I did receive a bunch. And talked about the fire suppression system at the fairgrounds. Went out and took a look at it, trying to come up with a plan. Had a little hiccup yesterday. We'll see where that goes. So, and then just addressing a few ins and outs of the day-to-day operations within the administration office.
Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioner.
Before we leave, do we need to do expenses?
Oh, yes. I'm glad you brought that up, sir.
Oh, you didn't put them, oh, yeah. He's gonna leave them off.
We're just gonna leave them off.
All
We
right.
don't want to do that. So our general fund total through June was $1,330,758.22. Road and Bridge Fund, $1,390,548.96. Public Health, $192,547.11. Capital Fund, $32,213.06. Administration Fund, $2,713.87. Landfill Fund, $138,646.04. Check register total, $3,087,427.26. Social services, $1,527,286.99, with a grand total of $4,614,714.25.
Okay.
What? I don't know.
Question?
The mathematician says it doesn't add up.
on social services?
It doesn't seem like the total reflects. I'm no mathematician, though. I went to law school for a reason. So I just want to be sure that our numbers are right.
In social services?
Does that come off?
That's about 1.5.
Yeah, that's close.
2, 3. Here, I can add it up real quick.
Somebody else with faster fingers than me.
Yep, that's the figure I came up with.
Okay.
If you had the check registered total, all social services warrants, or social services total, it's $4,614,714.25.
Okay, okay. Perfect.
There's a reason I went to law school, like I said. That's why we all went to law school.
I'm glad you're not flying rockets.
We can't do math. So,
Yeah, that rocket surgery will get you every time.
tell you.
Actually, I'm off 5
We
cents.
good?
You're off 5 cents, okay.
I move to approve the expenditures from Montezuma County for June 2023 in the grand total of $4,614,714.25.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the payables for June of Montezuma County in the amount of $4,614,714.25. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Commissioner Lindsey.
Not much to report. Number of emails, a few phone calls. I did go out with Travis yesterday at the fairgrounds, and while we were out there, Cortez Fire had a fire, and I said, "What fire?" And they pointed down the road, "Right there, can't you see it?" I turned around, looked, couldn't see it. There's a tree in the way. It couldn't have been placed any more perfect. Anyway, when you're out there, don't throw your cigarette butts in the bar ditches, because it was a heck of a bar ditch fire yesterday. They did a good job. And other than that, city council tonight.
Commissioner Copenhaver.
I don't, same type of deal. I've had several phone calls and different issues coming up as far as in the county. I agree with Kent. We've had 2 fires right there along the road within a mile of each other near the fairgrounds. Both of them got taken care of fairly rapidly and prevented spread from getting out of that bar ditch and into the timber and stuff. So, very good job by the fire department to take care of things. I'll be busy Thursday with the Colorado River Task Force meeting in Denver. Other than that, got a meeting Wednesday evening. That's all I got.
Okay. Mine was a little more hectic. So I left Wednesday to Denver to go to the State Transportation Advisory Committee. I was able to get out of La Plata County, and this goes back to workforce and airlines and trying to get back and forth to specific meetings. Had a great meeting, transportation meeting, a lot of things that were discussed, and the votes that were taken were all based on our RPP program, which is, we are going to say with what was represented in 2019. It never made it in 2019, but it will go, it will be the new proposal for 2019. This is about a 3-hour conversation between all 64 counties that were there. It finally did go back to the funding for us. So for our geographical area, the Southwest TPR, it will increase a little bit of funding for us, but it's really insignificant. Hustled my hiney off to get back to the airport to catch a flight on time. Got on the airplane, sat on the tarmac for about an hour and a half. Flight was canceled. Couldn't get a flight back home until about 36 hours the next day. So travel, it just becomes harder and harder all the time. Was able to fly to Albuquerque, catch a ride home with my daughter who was coming home the next day, so it actually worked out okay for me. Spent most of the day Saturday, volunteering out in Dolores for the Boggy Draw Beatdown. A lot of participants. I think they had 190-some participants there. It was well-attended, and a lot of racers in there. As a matter of fact, Tom Rice, who just presented earlier, was one of those participants, and it was a great event for the town of Dolores. Also had a meeting with Commissioner Lindsay and Administrator Anderson, like you said, at the discussion for the fire grounds fire suppression system. Later had a Zoom meeting that day for the Colorado Fire Commission with the county commissioners from around the state. And that'll be presented at our next CCI meeting when we go back in person in October. So with that, that is all that I have, gentlemen.
I have one other thing to add. Schools are starting up, starting this week, next week. Please be careful out there and go through the school zones as slow as you can. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn this August 8th meeting, 2023. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.